Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
So now we need to understand what is happening. So this force is acting this way and W is acting this way. So they both, if I take the midpoint somewhere here, they both will generate one anticlockwise moment, which is one here. It should not so happen that the B dash comes to a position where this restoring moment will not be anticlockwise, it might be clockwise. So then the body is going to be completely unstable. That situation should not arise. Now, when that will arise, so you see here, we have some distance called Gm. This Gm is nothing but the distance between the center of gravity to this metacenter. Please understand that the surface of this vessel and metacenter are not same. It could be different. So now this Bm minus Bg, if we can calculate, that will give us the value of Gm. So we know we can calculate the value of Bm and we know the distance between these two, that is Bg. Once we calculate these two values, we can calculate the value of Gm. So now Bg is known. How do we calculate Bm? We will see later. But now if we calculate Gm and then we compare whether the Gm is positive or negative or it is equal to 0, then we will be able to tell what is the equilibrium condition. So if Gm is greater than 0, that is positive, or M is above G, then the condition is going to be stable equilibrium in case of floating bodies. And if Gm is equals to 0, that is M coinciding with G, then the condition is going to be neutral equilibrium. And if Gm is going to negative, then it is going to lead to unstable equilibrium. So now, to understand that slightly more, if let us say this M metacenter is going to come somewhere here, so your B dash falls on this left side of this. So you have a point here where this is your B dash and the FP is acting here. So in that case, what will happen? Your W is on this side, FP is on this side, it will create one clockwise moment. So this clockwise moment will again lead to further displacement of this body, and this complete body is going to be unstable. So you should not have that condition. So in case of floating bodies, it is important to find the distance of this center of gravity to the metacenter, and then we will be able to ensure whether the body is stable equilibrium or neutral or unstable equilibrium. So now, how do we calculate the Bm? Bm is calculated using this formulation. So that is I by V. What is I? I is the moment of inertia of the body and V is the volume of submerged body. So the volume of submerged body will decide, volume of submerged body and moment of inertia will decide what is the value of Bm, and using that we calculate the value of Bg, and then we will be able to get the value of Gm. In general, you have some objects or some materials stored on the vessel. So you may have some containers on the vessel. So when the vessel is going to tilt, these containers, depending on the kind of fixity, they might move slightly. So the point G can also move depending on these movements. However, in this case, we have assumed that the G is not changing, but that may change depending on this movement of this storage. Now, if G is changing, then the problem becomes more complicated. And let us say you have some kind of liquid tanker, and in liquid tanker, if I say my liquid is stored within this chamber, let us say I have some kind of storage tank here, and this whole tank is filled with liquid. Now, if the ship is going to, or the vessel is going to tilt, this liquid will also change its position because it has to remain horizontal. It cannot remain inclined. So to remain in horizontal position, the liquid position will also change, and the G is also going to shift for the whole vessel. So that will further destabilize the total body. To avoid that, usually these liquid chambers are made into compartments. So what will happen if you divide this into compartments? This surface will change, but when you incline this, it will change and it will take slightly small inclinations, but the overall CG is not going to disturb too much. So the stability will still be maintained. So in most of the containers, liquid carriers, you will find it is separated into number of chambers. There are other aspects why it is also separated, but this is one of that. Okay. Now we have understood the buoyancy. Let us understand the rigid body rotation of fluid. So rigid body rotation, or sometimes we call it forced vortex. So in a rigid body rotation, rigid body motion, there is no relative motion between fluid layers. So if you have layers, they move with same rotation. So there is no relative rotation or relative motion between layers of fluids. There is no shear stress between these fluid layers, or there is no shear stress existing between the fluid layers. So when a cylinder or cylindrical container filled with liquid is rotated about its axis, then the free surface become concave shape. So if you put water in a bucket and rotate the bucket, so you will see that the shape of the free surface or the top surface is going to be concave, and it will be, as you can see in this figure, you will have a higher elevation close to the wall of this liquid tank, rotating tank, and you will have a lower elevation at the center. So this is the kind of profile you will observe. This is a concave profile. Now this motion is the circular motion of the fluid particles is called as vortex, forced vortex. Okay. So in this, every fluid particle moves with same angular velocity, that is omega, with which the tank is rotating. So the tank is rotating with omega, and each particle in this is also rotating with the rotation or rotational angular velocity, that is omega. So if all the particles are rotating with angular velocity omega, then obviously there is no relative displacement or relative motion either in the vertical direction or horizontal direction. So there is no shear. So now let us understand. Let us take a distance r from axis of rotation. So I am taking one point here. So I'll take the distance of that point as r. The centripetal force, or centripetal acceleration of the fluid particles is now going to be r omega square. The centripetal acceleration is going to be r omega square, and that is going to act radially outwards. Okay. Now due to symmetry, because this is a tank, so it is symmetric all around. So due to symmetry about the axis of rotation, there is no dependency on theta. So you may take any location, any angle, any theta. So at that r, the properties are going to be same. So it is independent of theta. Now if it is independent of theta, then we will write down that the pressure within the fluid will depend on the location of the required point, that is P is equals to Rz. In this we had three dimensions. We had theta here, but now we have seen due to symmetry, theta is not really playing a major role or playing any role. So pressure is a function of R and Z. R is the radial distance from the axis of this tank, and Z is the vertical distance. Either you measure from the free surface or bottom, but here it is easier to measure from the bottom. So if you measure, this is the constant surface or constant bottom bed of the tank, and from there I measure any point, and that is nothing but my Z. So to this point, this is my R and this is my Z. So the pressure at that point is going to be a function of Rz. If the R is going to vary, the pressure will possibly vary. If Z is varying, the pressure will vary. So now let us understand the change in pressure. The total change in pressure can be found from the relation dP, because we know P is a function of R and Z. We can write down change in pressure dP is equals to dou P by dou R into dR plus dou P by dou Z into dZ. So now let us find out each of these parameters, dou P by dou R and dou P by dou Z. Since there is no acceleration in the fluid in the Z direction, the pressure distribution in the vertical direction will be hydrostatic. So there is no acceleration because the fluid is rotating in this direction, or rotating about its axis with omega. So there is a centripetal acceleration here, but in the vertical direction there is no acceleration. So the pressure distribution we can write in the vertical direction as a hydrostatic, and dou P by dou Z we know from our hydrostatic basic fundamental expression is equals to minus gamma or minus rho G. So we have now found out that dou P by dou Z is equals to minus rho G. Now we will also figure out what is dou P by dou R. So now let us consider this elemental fluid here, and that is R is the radius up to this and theta is the angle. So R d theta is this stretch. Now the pressure that is acting on this element is P from this side, and there is a change in delta R is the width of the strip. So the change in the pressure between this point and this point is going to be P plus dou P by dou R into dr. So now if we take this and find out or balance the forces, okay, so what is the net force or net pressure acting? Net pressure acting on this surface is dou P by dou R into dr, and that is acting towards this towards the center. And if we have assumed that outward direction is the positive direction, outward normal is the positive direction, then this dou P by dou R dr is going to be the negative pressure or negative sign. So this dou P by dou R multiplied by the area. So what is this surface? This is R d theta multiplied by unit. So we are taking unit width. So per unit width, R dr into 1 multiplied by this pressure is going to give us the force, and force is nothing but your mass into acceleration. So if we equate that, what is the mass? Your mass is nothing but the volume R d theta dr, that is the area. Your R d theta is this surface, dr is this, and multiplied by 1. So that is your volume multiplied by your density rho is the weight of that mass of that liquid. So mass into acceleration, that we know R omega square, and R omega square is going to give you mass into acceleration is equals to this force. So if we equate these two, we can write down dou P by dou R is equals to rho R omega square. Now we have already obtained dou P by dou Z. Now here we have obtained dou P by dou R. Now taking these two parameters, if we substitute in our equation here, we will substitute the value of dou P by dou Z and dou P by dou R. Then we can write down that change in the pressure is equals to rho R omega square dr minus rho G dz. So from this expression, now if you take on the surface of the on a surface of constant pressure, the dou P is going to be 0. So here if I let us take the free surface, what is the pressure? It is all atmospheric at all the points. So it is a constant pressure line. Alright. Now on this surface, the dou p is going to be 0, and hence we can write down that dou z by dou r is equals to r omega square by g. So here, if I resolve this, I'll be able to write that this rho g dz is going to be 0 at the surface. So now dou p by dou r, dou z by, so this delta p is 0 at that surface. So this is equals to 0. I can write down dou r by dou z is equals to rho r omega square divided by rho g. That will give me r omega square by g. Alright. Now, once we have done that, if we integrate, on integration of the expression 2, you can write down z is equals to, if you integrate this equation, dou z is equals to r omega square by g dr, and integrate it, you will be able to write down z is equals to r square omega square by 2g plus some constant c. And now we will apply the boundary condition which we have discussed in the initial lectures. So what is the boundary condition? From equation 3, the constant c can be evaluated at depth z equals to z0. Okay. So now I will take this point which is at the center or along the axis and along the surface of the fluid. So what is that? The z is equals to z0 here, and what we know, r is equals to 0. So if I substitute those, then my c is going to be, the z has become z0 and c is now if we look at from the equation 3, the constant c can be evaluated as depth is z0. So that is the distance of this point, that is from the bottom of the tank to this free surface at the axis line, and that is nothing but my z0, and r is equals to 0. If we substitute these two, we can find out your c is equals to z0, because r is 0, so z is becoming z0, and so c will become z0. Now by substituting this value, we will be able to write down that z minus z0 is equals to r square omega square by 2g. So the difference z minus z0 is a function of the radial distance r alone. Okay. So we can find out if there is a difference or z minus z0, then it is going to be r which is going to play the role, and omega is known, and you can divide by 2g. So hence the equal pressure surface will be parallel to the surface. So we can immediately tell that at any distance, if I take at any point z, so the z minus z0, z0 will come here. So z minus z0 is going to be a function of r only, and if I have this free surface, then the pressure is equal, and then if I want to draw equal pressure lines, they will all be parallel to each other. Now at the free surface, the pressure is constant as it is exposed to the atmosphere. That's what I have already explained. The maximum height difference of the surface between the center of rotation, that is r equals to 0, and the radius of drum r0. So that we are telling here, the maximum height difference, that is between the center here and this radius, this delta zm, is equals to r0 square omega square by 2g. Okay. So because here r is r0, so we are writing r0 square omega square by 2g, and we know that r0 and omega, r0 omega is nothing but your angular velocity, the tangential velocity of the drum. So that is nothing but your v theta. So the velocity with which the drum is moving will be r0 omega, and if you substitute that, you will be able to get the elevation delta zm, that is between this point or the free surface at the wall or at the wall of the tank and at the center of this concave shell. Okay. So this is what all about the rigid body rotation, and with this we'll stop this lecture, and that's the end of fluid statics. Now next lecture we'll start fluid kinematics, and any questions, any doubts in the fluid static lecture we can take during our discussion. Thank you so much. Have a good day.